Hey, everybody. This is Richard Pickett with digital brand Alchemy. And today I'm a little nervous. We had a couple of technical difficulties. So if you hear my voice, my apologies. But today I'm here with Ron Craig. He works in the IT security space. It's a space I'm pretty well familiar with. That was where I got my roots probably 20 years ago. But he's building a digital brand, and he was asking me some questions. I think it was through LinkedIn about how to build a personal brand, things he should be doing and things like that. I thought, hey, great opportunity to have a live. You guys get to learn a little bit about him, as well as more tips, tricks, and things that you should do in building a brand. I think you'll find his very interesting, especially in the security space, and he's generating a lot of buzz. So I'm looking forward to a great show. So welcome, Ron.
Hey, thanks, Richard. Thanks for having me on the show. I'm really looking forward to getting my brand out there and learning from you. Actually, you're really good. So I look at this as a privilege.
Well, I appreciate that. So again, for those of you that may be new, we try to do a really quick bullet session of just fire off a couple of questions so you get to know him instead of real quick context. So let's start off with the first question. So Ron, tell everybody who you are, what you do, and why will the people who are watching want to get to know you?
So my name is Ron Craig, and I've been in the security and IT space for about 20 years, actually. So, and that's kind of what my profession has. I was working full time in that space, and that's what I do. And so I kind of am transitioning over to the marketing and the branding strategy, still in the security space, but I want to do that in the hopes to reach a wider audience. So instead of protecting one company, I want to use my knowledge to help protect everybody else with what I've learned through my career.
Awesome. And I really like that emphasis on protecting other people. So those of you that are in the audience, this guy's on your side. So Ron, tell me, what's the most impressive thing that people say about you?
What I hear actually a lot, and one of the most common things, is that I'm providing tips and strategies and an awareness, really, about what is happening in the world. Because we know cybersecurity, and we know that breaches, you can see them on the news every day, that hospitals are down, 110 nursing homes were hit, and they were crippled because of that. And we do see those in the news. So that is forefront and prevalent. But what isn't really there is, okay, so what do we do from the perspective of keeping ourselves safe? So people really have shown a lot of appreciation, actually, with my tips and my strategies, and really the awareness of what's to keep them safe. And actually, a good case in point, actually, that I have is one of my recent LinkedIn articles or posts, was that there actually is the possibility that somebody could be in your LinkedIn account that's not you. And that's actually kind of what the post is. It's that somebody could be logged in. And a lot of cases that, it's just old sessions of, old logins of you that just haven't disappeared. But I have actually talked to people who have sent me messages that said, I can't believe it, but I've seen, other countries, sessions from other countries. And, I don't know if it's a bad login, but they know now. I've taught them how to actually close those sessions out to make sure that's not the case. And then, of course, I also teach them how to turn on two-factor authentication and change their passwords. So that post right there is about 70,000 views and about 200 and something shares with hundreds of comments. So that kind of just shows that it was helpful. I was able to give value and give help to people that didn't know that this actually was a possibility and an issue.
So, which is pretty amazing engagement. So and shows like you're definitely hitting a nerve. There's something here for sure. So what's the surprisingly easiest thing that you found about building your personal brand?
I'm going to have to be pretty much upfront and honest that I haven't found really any of it easy. I'm coming from a technical background, geek nerd, have you, so, for me to come on here and kind of put myself out there and try to get what I know and what I learned, because this is always changing, and try to get that out and feel comfortable and feel confident. And I find it hard. I really do. I find that it's not easy at all. So that's kind of my answer to that is none of it has really been easy for me, just because this is something that is so out of my comfort zone and so different for me, with the marketing side and the blogging side and the vlogging and all that stuff is so new to me. So, but I'm persistent. I'm keeping at it. I put out stuff every day, and it is getting easier. That's pretty much my answer there.
Okay, which it'll almost feel like I'm leading the witness, so to speak. But the next question is, what part about growing your brand have you found the most difficult?
I find it's the consistency, and because I find that it's hard to always know what your focus is. I know I want to keep people safe, and I know I want to get the strategies out there, but how to do that in a consistent and an engaging way, I find is very difficult, because you kind of get lost a little bit, because you see something that comes out and says, oh, that's really cool, and you want to share that out or talk about it, but it may not be relevant to the message that I'm trying to put. Because security is generic, is general, it's broad. But I find, I may put something out there that's not even really security related, because I thought it was kind of cool, and keeping myself focused on, the why of why I do this. So I get lost sometimes where, I put things out that are, they're still, I think I like them. I think they're nice. But I do get, okay, maybe that's not the best message that speaks to the brand that I'm trying to build. Because I don't know much. I don't really know anything about branding. Like I said, I'm a security guy, so I don't know. This is all new to me, so it's difficult.
Okay, so the two things I heard was consistency and being able to stay on target or on focus with your message.
Yeah,
and that's certainly something we can go through today. What's the next question? What's the biggest problem you love to solve for other people? Like when someone says, "Hey, Ron, I need help with fill in the blank," you say, "Oh, that's my thing."
Oh, actually, I think a lot of people kind of know me for my push of multi-factor authentication or two-factor authentication, and that's something that I push very heavily. So, and a good case in point that we've seen is, and I think you might have even seen this on the news, is where the camera, I don't want to say the brand, but the camera was accessed by a remote predator attacker, cyber criminal, and they were actually watching and talking to a child in their bedroom. And that is scary from any parent or anybody. Any human sees that and goes, oh my, that's incredible. And so to get that message out there is, from what they say that happened there, is that the account was not set up securely. It was set up with a weak password. They didn't have two-factor authentication on. So when I see somebody who talks about, accounts are getting breached or compromised, and they don't have two-factor authentication on, then I really like to get in there and I push that message extremely heavily. I have a lot of posts out about it. On other posts that talk about authentication, I make sure I get in there and plug that. I actually have detailed posts out there for step-by-step guides actually on LinkedIn, how to even provide two-factor authentication on your own LinkedIn account. So I want to get that message out there strong, hard, loud, wide, as hard as I can.
Yeah, for those of you that are watching and know me, like you see me, I'm busy taking notes because I definitely want to come back to those posts as we go through this. The last two questions are a little bit different. The first one of those is, who are some people that are outside of your business, which I guess in this case is just you, who would be excited or interested to also come on the show?
That you mean like to be guests of your show?
Yes.
I actually do a lot of, my circle of contacts are, a lot of them are security, but in terms of outside of you're looking at basically outside of my circle, right? Like in terms of
No. So sometimes I have a business owner that comes on and they've got direct employees or whatever. So I would want people outside of their specific business, but not outside of your market.
Oh, I see. Actually, one of the two of the people that I really have the utmost respect for in security because of the messages that are putting is Alexandre Blanc. He and I have become very good friends, actually, and I love it. You know him as the connected equals hacked guy. I think I say that people will know. Oh yeah, okay, and really the one that we kind of all look up to in our industry is Chris Roberts. If you can get him on an interview, then you're doing well. I mean, he's, that's kind of, a lot of us got into the security industry actually because of him. He's the guy that hacked the airplane. Yeah, I'll give you a little bit of info. I won't give you a lot of details on that, but yeah, that's what he's known for. Is he's as good as they come and as nice as they come. So I want to make those two guys. If you can get them on an interview, that would be a must watch.
Okay. Last question. Tell everybody one odd or unusual, very little known fact about you. Reach into your errata stack.
Oh my goodness, I can actually. This is a good one. Now, I have one that's no. I used to be so I did start out my career as a programmer, and I still am a programmer. And I used to actually make a lot of games. So I actually am credited to a lot of video games actually on Game Boy. So I work for Digital Illusion. So I actually have a number of award-winning games that actually I'm in the credits for. That's an interesting, but it's kind of a bit related. But I can actually go even completely out of this is where I actually started my career out was actually as a baker. I'm actually a certified baker, believe it or not. So people don't. I told them that, and I think it's kind of a deer in headlights kind of like, what? So yeah, I used to work at Sobeys down in the east coast of Canada. That's where I'm actually from originally, and when I got out of school and I started working there. I baked and making bread, rolls, and pastries, and I came up to when I first moved up to Ontario. I did that for 2 or 3 more years until I realized, that's fun and all, but it's not really what I'm meant to do. I'm a tech. I've been a tech guy since I was 15, and so yeah, it's so that's kind of an interesting start where they don't really go together well.
But it's definitely very interesting, and I found a lot of people, even in IT. So both of us have an IT background. We typically have one odd thing that doesn't seem to fit IT at all, but it's where we started. Like for me, I spent 5 years in the Marines, and people would think, well, that's totally unrelated IT. But actually, I was programming and I was doing analysis on aircraft using computers. So I was still in the computer field, so to speak. Yeah. But most people wouldn't think, a Marine running around with a rifle or whatever would be the guy that would, I guess today, be building personal brands or in between working in the IT industry. But so that's very interesting. Okay, so for those of you that are watching, I will post a link if you'd like to come on live with us. You can just go to the URL there at the bottom and hop on with your own webcam. We're going to be talking back and forth about how Ron can build his brand and strategies and things like that. And would love to have you come in. Of course, you can also comment on the videos if you've got questions or whatever. Send in your questions by typing them in, and we'll be happy to take them. I'm keeping an eye on the comments, which we don't have any yet. So, all right. And I think some of that will be because this is totally unscheduled. Ron and I had scheduled just to chat on the phone, and we didn't know if we were going to convert it into a live video or not. But the more we talked, the more it seemed to make sense. So we have a little bit of background, some things. I've been taking some pretty diligent notes as we talked earlier today. Let's just get into it. So the one thing you mentioned, the ease, when I asked what's the easiest thing that you found with building a personal brand, you said you found all of it hard. And then when I said, okay, so what's hard, you talked about being consistent and staying focused to your core message. So let's talk about that a little bit. Like, what's your experience been? Why you would say it's all been difficult? Like, what are some of the struggles besides the consistency and focus that you found?
one of the things that, especially with security, is that if I was putting out, let's say, doing branding or marketing for a specific product, I kind of have a lot of material to go from that's maybe was put together by a team, and you kind of have a story that because a lot of the times I find that my stuff they're kind of one-offs. I'm not really telling a story or bringing people through here's like a series of things, like I would say, here's how you keep your router protected, here's how you keep your your two-factor authentication, how do you get that set up. Now they're all security related, but they don't really, they're not a story. They're not telling like, how do you go from here, this to this. And I feel like that a lot of the time I find that people get sometimes overwhelmed with the amount. They almost call it homework, because I'm saying, okay, this is how you need to go in and do all these these steps on your router. It's not a lot of steps, because I try to make it, I try to understand my audience, and I know that I'm not talking, in a lot of cases, especially with my tips and tricks, I know I'm talking to the general public. I'm not talking to security or IT professionals. So I think I've done an okay job of getting that stuff put into, I'm not using a lot of terms that only people in our industry would know. But I feel like it's difficult to say, I want to get out 3 posts a day, or at least 2. But how do you come up with, a story or a linear fashion to say, let's go from this to this to this, and keep it very consistent, focused, maybe even, progressive as you go through. And I find that that's difficult. So how I typically do my posts is something pops into my head that day, and I just write from my gut and my experience. And I haven't really planned out any posts I've ever done. They come to me as I'm sitting at the keyboard, and I kind of just put them out. I wish I had a bit more structure and say, let's get people, helped in, let's say, two-factor authentication, but kind of plan it out and say, here's some nice steps to do. And I've never looked into doing things like articles. And so I do find that difficult to say, because, it's hard to sit down at a keyboard and go, okay, it's 7:00 at night. That's when I typically post. I try to be consistent on my time at least, and say, now what am I going to do? And I kind of just wing it from that point. So I find it difficult to find how to strategize that part out itself. Now, I think it works well in some cases, because my posts do well, because I think, it's very raw and organic, because I literally this is what I'm feeling in my heart or in my brain right now, and is what I put out to people. So I would like to learn and figure out some strategies to say, well, let's get a series out there of strategies.
Okay. So one thing I can recommend, I think nope, it's not that. Because I'll screen share this when, I was thinking it was Ask the Public, and it's answerthepublic.com. So let's take a quick look at that. I will screen share this Chrome tab. All right. Yep. So here you can just type in like whatever. So people want to know about. Now, I think the general public will probably not be typing in 2FA or maybe MFA, multi-factor authentication. Most people are not going to be asking about that. I'm also very scared that this may be an abbreviation for something else that's not going to be family friendly. So I'm going to type in multi-factor authentication.
Yeah, or two-factor authentication. So
yes,
that's how most people look at that. I mean, they actually are, two versus multiple. Strategies do change based on what you're trying to do, but most users would be, looking at two-factor authentication.
So the way this tool works, and the website is answerthepublic.com. The way this tool works is you just type in a subject like I did, and it goes off and does a little thinking, and it'll come back and it gives this wheel, and there's a lot more to it, but I find that typically you can answer like, what type of content should I make, right here. So here are some questions. And the dark green means it's asked the most, and you'll notice it goes to light green until it switches to another question like what, and then it starts with dark green again until light green. So the dark green are the most asked questions. So why multi multi-factor authentication is important is the most asked question, if I'm reading this correctly. And you could just go right around, AWS multi-factor. What is multi-factor authentication client? Multi-factor authentication in Office 365. So these are really, really good starting points, and you can just sit here and just answer these questions. Why multi-factor authentication is important. That's a 5-minute answer or a 3-minute answer. Go ahead.
Okay. Yeah. So you were thinking that I would do either a post on that or a video that basically says this is a common question that people are asking in the wild or on this site, I guess is where it's happening, or they're kind of indexing everywhere.
Well, yeah. So this is based off of like Google and other search engines. So this is fairly authoritative that why multi-factor authentication is important is one of the most common questions that are searched online about MFA.
Okay.
You get, I think, 2 or 3 free searches a day with this, but so it's really simple. You could just print this off as a PDF or save it as a PDF as an example. And now you've got all these questions that are going to last you for weeks, months. So that's one. Another one is, I would say, have a clear call to action in all of your videos. So, hey, today I'm going to be answering this question. It seems to be, it's common, it comes up a lot, but I also want to answer your question. So if you have a question, post in the comments below. I'll make a video about it. Okay, so back to today's question. And then, you just have that as a real smooth intro, and you have your call to action literally at the beginning of the video, telling people, I'm here for you. I want to engage with you. I want to answer your questions. Some people make a mistake. They put the call to action at the very end. And so that means, maybe I'm worried about webcams, for example, but I didn't know you would answer my question, and your video is 5 minutes. And if your call to action's at the end, I probably missed it because maybe I'm not really concerned. I don't know what multi-factor authentication means to me. So I didn't actually watch the video, and so therefore I missed your call to action, and then I don't engage with you. So finding a smooth way to put that in the very beginning. And then you could use this website that I just gave, Answer the Public, as like seed, and then you'll get so many questions from people as you go. Or you'll notice, because your posts get a lot of engagement, you'll notice that people seem to not understand one thing correctly. They constantly get this one concept wrong. So then you make a video about that. And you switch it from this, like, priming the pump, to your audience actually starts driving it.
Yeah. And one thing that I'm really impressed with, and it's with the community of the security and the IT professionals. So I get a great deal of engagement on my posts actually from the people that are in my own industry, because they're actually coming on and they're providing their own input and their own expertise to help. And it's an amazing coming together. If you actually would look at if you look at my post, you're not just getting my expertise. You actually are getting people that are having conversations in there that are actually in the field, that are having that great experience. Many way beyond what I have, and it's just amazing how they all come together and say, and keeping us in check. That's one thing I really like about the way the security industry works, is because we're all fallible. I can say something that I think is correct, and I do my best to try to be accurate, but I'm going to have cases where I'm wrong. And it's very quickly on the post, you'll see that people will start coming up and say, oh, as of 2 weeks ago, because of this research paper from Berkeley, they did this massive research study that we found that this is actually what's happening today. And they actually, so we learn constantly on these posts, and people are getting up-to-date information from a variety of people that are engaging. And yeah, it's amazing how they all come together. You get so many professionals that are actually coming on my posts that are actually communicating, talking, engaging. So it's fantastic.
Which that's really awesome, because then so this was something we were talking about a little bit before, and I saved some of my thoughts for now when we would actually be live, on appropriately positioning your brand. And one so I want to make sure I get some of these things out there, and then we can unpack them as we go. So one is you being more like a curator of information and becoming a center hub. So you have the average user on one side, or as one segment, and then you have people that are industry professionals, which you're in, but you have them like as another segment, and you being that go-between. One of the things that you mentioned earlier was that I saw was there's almost like a language barrier, because if you're in IT, you especially in security, we have very, very specific phrases that we use that are very well thought out, and they mean a very specific thing. And the average public, like when you use those phrases, their eyes glaze over and they like have no clue what we're talking about. And I get that. So having to be that go-between to kind of translate what the industry experts are saying, you're in that group, but breaking it down so the common person can get that is, I think that's ultimately what drives your audience. And especially, when you talk about like one of your biggest posts being how people on other continents may actually be logged into your LinkedIn and you have no idea about it, and here's how you can go find that out. That, the security industry, they're not worried about that at all, but there's a large segment out in your audience that definitely found that very informative. So I think positioning yourself as the go-between that translates things is very powerful for you.
Yeah, and it gets difficult too, because certain wording, we don't, there's some bias to certain words that we use, and we talked about this. Is that when I say on my post, that, a cyber criminal is in doing this. Now, I used to, call, say, criminal hacker, or I never say just hacker, because as we talked about, is that a hacker doesn't mean bad at all. It's really just kind of the media putting a bias on it for the word. But the general public, the media's done a good job in one way, where we got people to kind of pay attention. Just got them to pay attention to the wrong word. And so it's kind of a barrier that we're up against. So I was putting criminal hacker for a while, but of course that gets me some, quite a bit of pushback actually from a lot of people in the security industry that says, why are you putting those two words together? It's criminal. They are criminals. They're not hackers. They use, hacking skills that they may have learned, to do crime and bad things, but it's like you have to be careful. It's like I put one out there, and I remember I was talking to I mentioned one of the top guys in our industry that I'll look up to, Chris Roberts. Sometimes makes a joke to me. He goes, we're gonna have ourselves a problem here. You keep putting a criminal and hacker together, he's gonna taser me. So it's like we have to be careful with that. And I find it's difficult, because it's like you want to keep everybody happy. And it's so hard to do that, because my end goal, my end game that I'm trying to do here is to keep people safe. And it's so hard. I don't want to worry so much about the words. I want to get the message out, but I also do small business. I do B2B as well. So I have to make sure I'm using the right terms. So I kind of are working two different sides, where I'm talking to the users and the general public, and I'm trying to use words that they understand, but I'm changing some of them, like into cyber criminal. Now, I think we are doing a better job. That I think people are starting, because the thing is, if you're being consistent with the words that you're using, more and more people are seeing all of us using cyber criminal. So we are getting that out there. But I think we'd all be fooling ourselves that if 88% of them still think hacker, because the media is still putting it out there. You look at the problem with the camera, where they were talking to the kid in the room. They were, they said a hacker accessed. The media comes right out there and kind of undoes what we're trying to change the view and the image. Like another one is the hoodie. That's something that our industry doesn't like. They call them hoodie hackers, where you always show a picture of a hacker as a guy wearing a hoodie and glasses and no face, kind of. And, that's another stigma that we're trying to get and change. But the general public, that's what they're being, they're identifying with it, because not what we're doing, but because of the media is how they're portraying it. So it's kind of a battle that we're trying to fight, two different battles: keep you safe, but get rid of the bias and the stigma that's coming with certain, terms and things that are happening.
Yeah. So when I think about, again, going back to your brand positioning and these terminology barriers, in a way, I would recommend almost pick one side. And another way that you'll hear this is niche down. So when you niche down, you're saying, more and more narrowly, this is my ideal customer or the person that I want to service. And I just want to talk in a way that resonates with them. And if I'm going after, IBM or Google or Facebook or, whoever, and I want to service them in a security context, then I will present myself in a way that really resonates with them. If instead I'm going to be an advocate for the average consumer, then I will position myself and use language that resonates with them. And you may even have like an education series. So like, for example, if you decide, and my recommendation, my thought is go after the average consumer. You may have an education series that says, I'm going to dispel some of these improper terms. You'll hear the term hacker in the media, but technically hackers are not evil in and of themselves. If you've ever like gamed the system or made a patch workaround of something that was difficult, technically you just hacked it, even though you weren't malicious or evil. And so, you could put together series like that and help people come along with the language barrier. At the same time, I would probably still use the publicly accepted terms. And I think we covered this in the pre video before we went live. And I wouldn't back down from the controversy. I would just say, well, the consumer of this particular video will use the word hacker in an evil way. So I'm talking to them in a language that makes sense. And if I caught some flack from IT security professionals because I'm using the wrong word, I would actually welcome it. It wouldn't bother me that much. And I'll just remind them, well, this video wasn't for you. I'm trying to educate the public. And my goal was for them to be secure, not to learn this word or quibble over these little words. I just wanted for them to be more secure. I think that actually makes you look good for that ideal customer being your audience.
Yeah. And, and the thing is, if I do get tasered, I think I am going to get tasered. I have a lot of hair, so that's what people are going to smell: burnt hair. I mean, it's going to, it's going to happen. But it's like you said, there's some advantages to rocking the boat a little bit because I had a post that I was using Criminal Hacker, and some people didn't like it, and it actually sparked a side conversation about it in the post. Now I know it kind of takes away a bit from the message because the message was about here's a problem to fix, and it kind of got sidetracked a bit, but it did help, that the main post body, get a lot more visibility because of that. Now, I wasn't out there to upset anybody. I never put anything out to upset any user, any business, but I am very outspoken about kind of how, when I want to keep people safe, I want to make sure that, that these cameras that are in your home, literally, I said on one post, it's literally like inviting a predator into your home. Some people didn't like how I said that. They felt that's kind of getting a little too far, but I don't know other way to look at that. You're putting a camera that can be, it's getting easily breached. That's in your bedroom of your child. It literally, to me, is like inviting a predator into your home not because of you had any malicious intent or thinking, and it's because of the knowledge. You don't know. These things are very well marketed. You see the kind of the shiny, the bells and the whistles, and look at this cool technology, and there's no education that's being done. I mean, even in schools, we're not seeing, in like K to 12 schools, how much ICT and CIS are you seeing where they're actually teaching children how to use iPad safely and how to be on Snapchat safely? They're not getting the education to do this. So it's not like we're not really prioritizing. And I have spoken about that in the past, is that, businesses and vendors aren't prioritizing the security aspect of it. To say, don't just put out a device, make sure that they understand how to use it safely and enforce the use of it safely. Because that's one thing about the camera where it was accessed and the kid was talked to by that predator, is they called it out and they used what we call victim shaming. Is that, the company got on and say, oh, it's because the parent didn't set up the account correctly. See, to me, that's like taking a cop out. you should, if this is extremely urgent situation. It's a critical situation. There was a camera in a home that could be potentially used to do something like that. If two-factor authentication is what they said they didn't have on, then why didn't the vendor enforce that had to be on? You had no choice whatsoever but to put that actually on the account. Leaving it up to them when they don't actually have the information and the knowledge to even understand. I mean, I talk to people all the time where I say, put on multi-factor authentication, and they're like looking at me blank stare going, what? What's that? I don't know what you're talking about. So, you have to enforce it and do, the education. They can do a step-through guide that says, let's get your account set up securely, and here are the steps we need to do. And you can't back out of that. You've got to go through that to protect your best interest. I think the vendors can do a really nice job of starting to educate and actually helping the security community and the people that are fighting the battles every day in the trenches and saying, let's try to keep everybody safe. But let's also make sure that they are safe. Let's do what we can.
Yep. So I like how you just mentioned about if I'm going to make a device, it's incumbent on me, or if I'm going to have a service, and I think that multi-factor authentication or two-factor authentication is the best for my client's security, I should enforce that. I should say there's only one way to set this up, and it's with two-factor authentication, or it just doesn't work. That way I'm intentionally keeping my customers safe. I really like that. And I think you positioning yourself in this space as being the consumer advocate is powerful for that. Another thing that I'm hearing, and this is common in personal brands, especially people that are in coaching, authors, course creators, whatever. I see this one commonly. They want to be the nice guy. They don't want to offend anybody, hurt anybody's feelings. And I think to our detriment, what we end up doing is watering ourselves down a little bit too much, or worrying too much what everyone out there is going to think. And this becomes paralyzing, or it becomes where anytime you say something, you have to list all these caveats, or clarifications to make sure you're totally not going to be taken wrong or misunderstood. I think it's actually better in the beginning for us to check our intention. Mm-hmm. What's my intention with this post? I'm going to make a post about whatever it is, fill in the blank. What's my actual intention? And, check, I'm sure one of the ones that you may struggle with is, am I using fear and, society's anxiety as a motivating factor? Someone could probably criticize you for that. And I would just say, is that my intention? No, my intention actually is to empower them to not have their LinkedIn account broken into, or whatever. And then that's what I put into the video. And when people want to now nitpick and say you used the wrong term, or you didn't say this right, or you're fear mongering, or whatever, I would just say, that's totally not my intention. And I got a clean conscience with it. If that's how you think, this content's probably not for you. And it's not, because there will always be someone there that will nitpick all the details. And I'm not making content for them. So please feel free to move on to someone else's post, because that's totally not my intention. What are your thoughts?
I think that you can never make content for even your own target audience, or you're going to have a certain percentage of people that aren't to agree with what you're saying, maybe on that particular topic. Everybody's going to have a point of view, and I think we kind of realize this as we're starting to become content creators, that's also kind of the catalyst and for good engagement. At the same time, is, first of all, you don't want everybody agreeing with you. You need to have your own checks and balances. You need people to get on there and say, that's great, but I would, I don't like that way. Here's a way I've come up, and I think it's better than what you've done. And that's how we learn. That's how we grow. And I'm always open for that. I tell people all the time, if I say something that doesn't gravitate with you, or you don't even feel as correct or accurate, I want to know about it, and put it right in the comments. Get it public. Let's get the conversation going. As long as it's kind, it's respectful, it's professional. I like to get that out there, because I know that, even what I say, I could say something today that 99% of the security industry says that's right. That's what we're thinking, what we're saying, and it's wrong tomorrow, because somebody has found a way to kind of change the game. It's like a cat and mouse game, that's no longer true. So all we can really do from today in the perspective and the time frame of now is, say what's best to help keep people safe and protected, from what we know today. Like, we do have fundamentals. Like, there's a lot of really good CISOs out there that I follow that use like words like, the fundamentals. We do the best we can with what we know, certain, guides and basics, and even for users, there's certain ways that you set up your home router. You know that you have to put a strong password. Well, we know you're supposed to put a strong password, and we know that's getting better because when you're hooking up your new modem from your ISP, they're now starting to put on and say, here's this big, long digit number, or they're making you do my ISP where I'm from actually does that now. Their modems don't actually have a passcode in the back anymore for the Wi-Fi password. You actually go through a protected setup, and then you have to make a strong password that meets the requirements to actually get Wi-Fi set up in your home now. So you can see some vendors starting to adapt. They're starting, people do have a lot of old products out there. And that's another issue with old technology. And then of course the information is, how do you go and change your password on your router? Because it might have been set up for you when the technician came into your home and asked you what password you want. You might have said, oh, well, it's my usual password, which is my cat, the year my kid was born, and that's it. And that's the password they've always used. And of course, we talk about the heavenly. You want to have what we call single-use passwords. And and the thing is that there's a lot of security awareness training out there that actually all users can use that actually help them with that. I mean, I have my good friend Gabriel. He has his company Wiser. Free security awareness training, and he gives that out to the world for free with no catch. Like, he doesn't, it's not going to ask you, it's not a trial. Here's some free training. And it actually touches on school safety, home safety, and he has so many good videos. So there's a lot of stuff out there that can do that. And so that comes back to kind of what I push and what I do is, how do we get this information into the hands of as many people as possible to try to keep, that's really, and a lot of people tell me all the time, and this is kind of coming back to what you do. It's kind of a, don't focus on the numbers. Don't focus on, the views and stuff. But I have a hard time not, because I look at it from my passion of what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to keep as many people, safe and give them this information as possible. But if I put a post out there and only 1,000 people see it, I feel like I didn't reach as many people as I could. If 50,000 people see it, then I have the potential to help a lot more people in that post. So I'm kind of torn a bit with that. I can understand maybe from the, I don't look at, these kind of tips and these posts for lead generation. I can understand from a business perspective, it's not about the quantity of views and the amount of people that see it. It's about the quality of the lead that sees it. But from my perspective, I want everybody to see it. For that aspect where I'm talking to the general public.
So, like I heard this earlier too, when this thing I want to touch on now, you just brought it back up again when you were talking about making 3 or 2 posts a day, like to get the content out there. So and now you're expressing again like this desire or maybe even a pressure to get numbers of viewers. So, leading and lagging indicators are very important. I think your main goal, if I could summarize it after having listened to you and gotten to know you a little bit, is you don't want awareness is not as important to you as people who actually became safer. Because if you got the whole world to find out that it's not safe and no one actually got safer, you would like we've wasted our time. Whereas if you could actually have people that are safer, if that's true, the other thing that I'm hearing too is a difference between strategy and tactics, and I see this a lot in personal brands. Personal brands, they get really caught up in likes, views, comments, and engagement, all these things. Where this can go wrong is I realize like this post, which is actually important, didn't get as much likes or views, but this other one that's slightly a little bit off topic or uses a tactic that's not true to me, like fear mongering, it actually got more. And so then what I start doing after my post analysis is I realize, okay, if I talk about these things over here, I don't get a lot of traction. But if I go more and more over here, like I get a lot more engagement. And then we let our engagement drive us. And the next thing you know, we're posting cat videos. And you're like, I'm getting 1 million views. Yeah, but it has nothing to do with my core business. And I see that as a common thing. So should we pay attention to numbers? Yes, but we got to be careful about letting numbers themselves be the thing that drives what type of content we're going to put out. And I think this comes back to tactic versus strategy. Numbers are tactics, or likes, views. The vanity metrics are tactics. That is, they're very short, focused, trying to do something specific. Whereas we got to have a long-term strategy of where I am today and how I'm going to build this over a long period of time and where my goal is. Then I use those short-term measurements to make sure that I'm on that path, not on a path for maybe making better cat videos. So, for me, I want to know what your long-term strategy is. If we could fast forward 5 years from now, where are you with your brand? What would your day or week or month look like 5 years from now if today we could push a button and everything began to work the right way?
I definitely want to be, because I want to get the best knowledge. Well, not the best, but what we know today. There's a lot of great products, services, fundamentals, strategies that are out there, and I want to make sure. I want to do my part to get those into as many hands and eyes and hearts and businesses and homes as I can. So I want to, that's what I'm doing now. That's what I'm working on for my own, because I'm putting tips out for the general user, and that's one side of it. But I also want to make sure that I can find and talk to companies and say, look at these great products that are really making a difference. Like, they're really good stuff. And I want to get the visibility and help them actually get that out there and market them, because, the thing is you have to have an income as well. And I struggle with that. I think, well, should you get paid for, getting these things out there? And this is so far has been 100%, a hobby for me. And not a hobby because it's the wrong word, but, I'm on here. I have a job where you do one thing where I'm protecting the company, and then I have a second side where I want to start promoting products and services, because it really is the products and services for these companies that are, at the end of the day, are going to make the difference. I can tell you, you should use antivirus on your computer, but then you're left with, well, which one? For me to do the research and do a product walkthrough and show, here's the results and stats of things that I've looked at, and and actually get that into as many hands as I can and many eyes and see. So that's where I want to kind of get my long-term strategy, where companies trust me to get a message about their products that I believe in, and I make that very clear. Actually, I've talked to a couple this week, and one of them actually I couldn't work with, because they were talking to me about their product, and I said, I don't get it. I don't see it. I don't understand how that's going to help. And then, one of their questions to me, what does that have to do with anything for you marketing it? And I said, if I don't believe it myself, then there's no way I can have anybody else believe in it, because I can't get excited about it. I can't get passionate about it. I'm a typically passionate, I'm a passionate person. So when I see something I like and I feel strongly about it, I can talk about it. I'm sure you in marketing know that. If you don't believe in what you're doing and what you're selling, right, you're just wasting. I can't give you. I can't even do it. It's not even possible for me to do anything for you. Otherwise, I'm living a lie. I'm putting a lie out there. So one, I couldn't do anything with. The other two I talked to last week. Their products. I looked at them. They gave me a walkthrough, and I'm like, wow, like, that's impressive. I can work with that because I use it. And so that's what I want to see myself 5 years down the road, is be able to work with companies, and great companies, and say, and people, not just companies, but people with services, and putting together these technologies, because we need a lot of work and a lot of help. There's a lot of great stuff out there. There's a lot of great stuff coming down the line, but we have to get people to see it and know it. I know they may have their own marketing, but I think I can help them with that strategy and help them get seen and visibility from, how I do things from my own angle. And I think, and I've seen people, I've been reached out to by a number of people already in the last couple of weeks to say, can I help them, with their products and services? because I think they see, that there's value in what I'm doing and kind of how I've been doing things on LinkedIn so far.
Yep. So I see. You mentioned like about getting paid, and I think I don't think I believe that we should be paid for the value that we create, and I that's a double-edged sword, because it also means if I'm not actually creating any value, I don't think I should be paid. So case in point, that one customer you had or potential client you had that said, here's our product, and you said, I don't think it contributes any value, so I'm sorry, I can't represent that. Same for me. Like, this is front of mind for me all the time, is, am I actually delivering value to other people? And I think that value, it translates to some other form of value. Sometimes it's payment, sometimes it's audience, whatever the case is. In your case, I think there are two values that you provide. One value is to the business that has a product and they would like it marketed and or certified, basically your stamp of approval, and you bringing it up and you talk about its security, et cetera, would be one value that you provide. I think the other value is the value that you provide to the end customer. And this one I think is more interesting to try to figure out how to leverage yourself in this market space to be able to withdraw some value back. So in other words, you're giving value to the consumer. How can you draw value back for that? It can be just by building a large audience, but then you're back to that basic question about how to get paid. Just like total brainstorming, thinking outside the box, what would it look like if you had a subscription and a members area? I pay $5 to $10, so it's like really low, but I'm always on the cusp of everything that you're finding security wise. I'm getting your content all the time, as well as you have all these different reviews. Like, I use a password manager, LastPass. Maybe you've got a review on LastPass and you say, great product, but you need to make sure you go do these 4 things. And so I take your little checklist, I'll make sure I'm doing those 4 things. And now I've improved my security, but I was willing to pay you for it because now I feel safer. And there may be some products that are listed, you'd say, don't use this one. And if I wanted to get the technical reasons why, you could totally explain it. But the average consumer, they don't need to know that your WPA2 password needs to be 21 characters or longer, like the reasons why and how those packets can be broken. They just need to know that mine is now 21 characters and now I'm safe. So what are your thoughts on building like a members area or membership where you're helping them?
That definitely sounds like an interesting strategy. It's not something that I've actually explored, to be honest with you. I've never looked at monetizing, the consumer side of it in terms of the users. I'm kind of looking at, business to business and, business to customer in terms of them having the great products and services. But I can understand that I am putting posts out there. I am putting security expertise out there that the consumer could use. I just never really put a lot of thought into monetizing that, because my whole goal why I got into this was to seeing that there's need. We need to get the security message out there, as far and as wide and as loud as we possibly can, and repetitive, or make it retentive, and it's make sure people know. But I never really gave a thought to them. No, I understand. I just I'm in security. I speak about privacy and I speak about data and data mining, and I don't want to. I understand that you can't give away everything for free in life. You do have to get paid, otherwise you can't do this. But the consumer market is just something that I just never put any thought into. I look at them as my audience and the people that I'm trying to keep safe, and it's the businesses with the products that have really good products and services that that can actually help them do that and perform that and keep their families and their businesses. It's not just about consumer, because there's also business to business, that I'm also, heavily involved in, is because like 2-factor authentication and, back-end technologies, that's something that you should be doing on your account, but it's also something that employees and businesses and small businesses and MSPs need to have set up, as well. So yeah, I just really never put any thought into monetizing the consumer side of it at all.
Yeah, again, I hear. So I want to come back and address a little bit of that. But first, as one of mentioned, like I keep hearing these two different metrics. So one metric is let's get the message out there, and the other metric is actual security improvements. So I encourage you just to focus on actual security improvements, not just getting the message out there is kind of like that's where you're putting content on LinkedIn or Facebook or like, whatever, you're getting content out there, but you don't really know if you're making a dent in the world. But when you say I've helped secure 1,000 vulnerabilities, that's an actual number. How would I know that? And it gets, so this to me goes back to like a long-term strategy. This becomes a metric I can tie myself to versus views, likes, engagements, whatever. Because if I know that I've actually improved the security of 1,000 people, or even if it's 200 people, but each one of them, I improved their Wi-Fi security, VPN, and something like a LastPass, storage or like whatever. So that's 600 security improvements over 200 people. This is a number that continues to grow over time and becomes something where you say, I'm the biggest security expert or impactor in the world because I've affected all of these security changes. That becomes massive within a year, 2 years, versus I'm getting a lot of views.
Yeah.
And again, I would sign up $5 to $10 a month. That's so low. Mm-hmm. And then to be able to look in, like you said, if you have to take time, you say, okay, you need to get an antivirus. Okay. And now you take the time to figure out which one, how to set it up correctly, make sure you have these 10 options selected, all of these things, like that's valuable because you had to take your expertise and over a period of time to create that as a value. You can give that away for free. I wouldn't. Maybe you'd give away 20% of it for free. You would say, hey, I compared these 3 or 4. I found this one to be the best. And if you want to know the exact settings that I use and I recommend for my clients, it's a $5 a month subscription. And not only do you get this, but you get everything else, like the ability just to do a search for like password storage. And here are all the password storage providers that you've checked and which one you recommend and what the settings should be. Like I would spend a weekend and go through everything that I have, Facebook accounts, LinkedIn, everything that could be multi-factored, et cetera. And I would leave after that weekend, all of my stuff would be secured. That's worth something to me.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. It's, that's the thing is where I'm kind of, because I am going to be, doing, I guess what people are reaching out to me for right now is, that have products and services that have, something like LastPass and things like that to say, can you help us get the message out there of why our product is good? So I guess that's coming from a different perspective than me focusing on a consumer side of the market where I say, I'm just going to go look at your products and kind of put them all up into a list. And here's the top 10 list of the things I use. So it's kind of a different approach. So the approach that I definitely have been focusing on is kind of marketing the products themselves. Like I said, I am kind of in it, like you can see the confusion that I have is where I'm putting tips out there to protect the general user.
Right.
But I'm, and I'm getting great engagement and a lot of security people in there helping them out. But, I also want to get these great products to the hands of those people and services. So yeah, like I said, I am definitely, that's why I think the question that we had is, what came easy to you? None of it. I'm new to all of this. So that's why I really do rely on experts in all the fields, whether it's marketing. I'm looking, to your help and expertise to say, how would I better handle these situations? And then even in security, security is too broad. I don't know, I'm a journalist. I run IT and security for a company, and that gives me a certain point of view on things, but I can't go in and say this is how you manage a backend encryption system of this type, there's people out there that are far better at it than I am, and I actually reach out to them and say, and it's kind of knowing what you're good at, and so that's why I'm kind of doing a lot of work and talking to you to others and say, help me kind of maybe narrow down what the best path would be. I mean, I should know my own path, obviously, and what I want to do, but you don't always necessarily. I think sometimes you need a bit of a kick, and you need an outside point of view.
Well, the thing that I've heard you express is consumer advocate, because when you have companies that come to you and say, talk about our product and promote it, and you evaluate it and say, I don't see any value there, you're looking out for the consumer. And this is where the troubled footing comes in with people that are experts in their field, that if they become a brand advocate for a company and their income gets tied to promoting that product, over time they can become disingenuous, where they lose the belief in the product or the company, but now their income's tied to it and they're stuck. So that's why I would want to switch it so that you actually get paid for being the advocate for the end user, and you only recommend products if you truly, truly believe in them and your paycheck's not related to them. I mean, you may get paid by company A, B, or C, whatever, because of their security product, but it's not swaying your decisions or not trapping you because you actually get paid by protecting the average consumer.
Yeah, and I've been very, like I said, I talked to somebody and I couldn't do anything with it just because I wouldn't use it. I don't believe in what they were doing, but there's a lot of stuff, companies out there that I have been helping, where I believe in what they do, and I use it myself. And actually, I've been an advocate for using this technology, and actually, it's kind of interesting because everyone that I've reached out to them because I've actually found. And I've done, I found them by using their product and evaluating it, and me reaching out to them and saying, is there anything I can do to help you? I like to see my followers and people that are looking to me for advice to use this. So I guess I am looking out. I'm looking out for them, but I'm kind of going to it and saying, I want to get more visibility on your product because I like it. I trust it. I use it. I want everybody that I know to use it. So I guess it's still kind of an advocate, but I'm reaching out to the company. So yeah, like I said, I don't know the best way to do that necessarily, but but at the end of the day, it really is about making sure that people stay safe.
Yeah. So as a lean startup guy, I've launched a couple of products using lean startup, and I do lean startup consulting. I love it when ideas prove themselves. To me, business ideas prove themselves. And in this particular case, the thing that I'm thinking of is what would it look like if you have your own website and there's like a members area, even if it's free and or open, and it becomes right now just the archive of where you go and you review stuff. So like if you did a LastPass review, or if you did a antivirus review, or if you did a how to set up your wireless password review, as an example, this becomes a place where I can go and begin to read and learn more or watch videos and secure myself. That membership grows over time. It's totally for free. And one day you just say, hey guys, I would like to I think now I've got 100 or 50 reviews in here of the most common things that people need to be aware of. I'm going to switch this to a paid version. And how many of you would like to continue? And you just find out. I think with all the buzz that you're getting online already, you're going to have people, wow, he just talked about LinkedIn and using multi-factor, and here's a person that found out that 3 different continents are all logged into their LinkedIn. And he's got these other videos for God knows what else, Facebook, etc. I'm going to go to a site. I'm going to get a free membership and get secured. I think it's an easy sell.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. It's like I said, I'm you can always tell I'm very new to all of this and kind of, so, and, I definitely know, my why at the end of the day is to keep people safe. It's just, always the best approach and the best way of doing that. I mean, I'm getting the information out there. So in terms of how I'm doing it, I think that I'm on a good path in terms of, getting, especially on LinkedIn side of it. I only work on LinkedIn, and I've been trying to do some cross posting with Facebook and Twitter. I don't really do. I mean, LinkedIn automatically posts to Twitter because it has that feature built into it, but I don't actually act. I don't go on it. And Instagram, I tried taking little snapshots of my posts and putting it on there. But I'm a LinkedIn strategist. I really focus completely on LinkedIn, and for now. And so looking maybe in the future, to kind of expand out and see. But it has to also be relevant. Not every platform is relevant to showing. Like Instagram. How do you show? I don't do videos at the moment, so my plain text posts don't really fit the format of the platform.
Yeah, and knowing where your ideal audience is and catering to them, I think is important. Maybe Instagram is not. TikTok, obviously, would not really be, because you just can't. I mean, you could probably make some funny videos about security that may bring up awareness, but you're not going to service them in TikTok. They'd have to come somewhere else to be able to consume your content. Yeah, I like it that you're starting in LinkedIn. And I think, like, going back to the strategy of building an archive, or maybe archive makes it sound like it's old, but like building a corpus of a body of text, well, not text in this case, but videos of how to be secure across a lot of different things. I think that actually could drive 2 posts a day for you, because then you'd come home from work and you would just sit down and say, what's the thing I'm going to review today? And you just make that video. You can still post it while you're building up, your body of work in a membership section, and have a CTA in every one of those, just saying, hey, for more videos like this, I've got now 50. Oh, now I have 75 products. Now I've got 100. Like, it becomes easy, and you draw the membership easily, and then you convert awesome. To paid.
Okay. Yeah, no, it's definitely, really good points there. You give me a lot to think about.
So do you have a main website already?
No, I do. I use LinkedIn as my website. My profile is basically, I don't have anything, but I have my marketing kit that I send out to customers, but I don't have a website. I'm gonna get one up there soon with that, because I have enough content, enough material out there that I can definitely catalog that. Now, when I was, in the past, I'm building things up, and now LinkedIn does have it all, but a lot of that's in posts, and because the posts are really short-term things and they don't last very long. If you can get a month, you start seeing good traction on a post for a week, 2 weeks, and some, I've got, up to a month I've seen where they're still continuing, but after that, the information is kind of, because I think LinkedIn wants, the content to be fresh, wants to be current. It wants you to have new stuff every day. And it's not for, I know articles are kind of fitting a different niche, they kind of have a long-term effect, but the posts, they're going to eventually, disappear and kind of not be on the radar anymore. That information and the comments, and, I'd like to go into the post, and I want to collect, because like I said, there's a lot of security experts that are coming in, and they're actually contributing to my posts and saying, all these great things. And I want to collect that information out, and I want to put that, whether it's in an article or on a site, and say, here's what I wrote about, but here's all the other information that came out of it, because you get and collect all that.
Right. Yeah. And I think interviewing those experts too, as things change, that becomes valuable. So like doing exactly what I'm doing now, if you interviewed people like that come out with new studies, or where we used to think this was secure, but now it's not, here's a new finding, you don't have to be the expert in all of those things. You're an expert in your field, but you don't have to be an expert in all those little bitty tiny details. You can bring those experts on, and because you're an expert in that area, you'll be able to ask very pertinent relative questions, and again, be that translator between what this expert's saying and your audience, knowing that most of them don't have a security background and don't know the lingo. Again, I think that positions you as the consumer advocate. I see that as just a really good role. That would be my recommendation. on
Okay.
building a brand is consumer advocate.
Yeah, and and I think I've done. I mean, you obviously would have to go through my posts and see what things are going. But if you take a look, I guess you'll see that that's kind of what I've really done. I mean, everything that I've posted for people on LinkedIn has always been in the context of keeping you safe. It's always been on the side of and that's why certain products and services of people that I've come to know, like Wiser, how to get that out there and say, because he's protecting the user. It may be in a company, but it's still the user, an employee, keeping them safe. So, and that's why a lot of products like that really gravitate to me, because it's it's protection. It's keeping people safe.
Right. It seemed like there was one other thought that I had there related. Oh, yeah. So with LinkedIn as your site, you're not able to like own the conversation, so to speak. And what I mean by that is you place a post, and depending on the algorithm, people may or may not see it,
Yep.
May or may not engage in it. And as you said, it's short-lived. So usually most posts are dead after 3 days. If you're getting a week or two, that's actually pretty good traction. But as you said, eventually it's going to die, and then it's harder to reference. It's harder for you to say to someone, "Hey, I already covered that. Go back and you watch this video," because it's lost in the feed. And unless you're walking around with like a lot of LinkedIn links and there's no good indexing for you to say, "Here's a list of all my things," unless you're manually keeping track of it, like it's almost like you're putting content out in the wind, and it works for a minute, but then it's gone. Versus having it on your website, it becomes easy for you to just tell people, "Hey, if you want to learn more, come to my website. If you want to see more videos, come to my website," and you control the communication of that. Once they subscribe or become even a free member, every time you publish something new, it's easy then to go back to your list of members and say, "Got something new." And it's all in one place. They don't have to like go find it somewhere in the feed. So there's I think you're probably at that point where you've proven out you got a valuable message, and it's resonating with people. Now it's time to take the next step in your business development and consolidate and index your stuff on your own website and control the messaging.
Yeah, because you don't want to lose it too, because you don't want to repeat the message. I mean, you want to repeat to some degree, but maybe in a different way, because especially with security, repetition is important, because if I just say multi-factor authentication one time, it's something that you have to keep in the forefront. But you also want to make sure they come up with something fresh and new, and different ways of looking at it, different examples, different use cases, different perspectives on it. So yeah, you want to make sure you're keeping stuff fresh. But yeah, you don't want to lose anything, because you also could end up saying, you want to keep consistent in your message, because even for me, I think it has value for me to go back into time and take a look at what I said then and what I did, and kind of add to the story, or even update the story, because there's going to be, especially in the world we're in, is technology, security, everything changes so quickly. You might say something today that a good portion of it is no longer relevant next month because things have changed. So, I'd like to be able to say, in relation to what I said here, that people are looking or seeing, here's an addendum or
Right.
to say, I want to, because, it's important to keep the most current and up-to-date information and best practices, forefront, not somebody finding something from 6 months ago and say, "Oh, look at this great article," but that's now redacted. But they can't see that unless you start going through old content. Maybe that's one advantage of LinkedIn, is that because things are so short-lived, they kind of redact themselves. They disappear.
But the bad thing is, if you made something valuable 6 months ago and it's still valid today,
you lose it. Yeah,
it's near impossible to find it.
It is. Yeah, you got to start using third-party tools, because I don't think LinkedIn even lets you go back more than a year in certain cases, unless you have some sort of third-party plugin or tool to do so. So yeah, it's definitely tricky.
All right. Well, we have gone well over an hour, and it's been really, really good. And for those that are watching, like, we had an hour plus, I think an hour and a half before we even got on this. So we've been chatting for quite some time, and I hope you found it valuable.
Absolutely.
I haven't seen any questions come in, but I've seen people drop in and go out. We've had a number of them that have stayed consistent through the whole thing. So I appreciate all the viewers. Let me get your LinkedIn link so that people who are interested, this is where you can check out Ron and watch him grow. So I've posted that out.
Yep, and I've got my own custom hashtag as well. If you want to share that out, it's just my hashtag Ron Craig. I started learning that little trick to keep yourself indexed.
All right. Looks like my chat just broke, and it said I needed to refresh. So I've noticed that Restream has been a little flaky today. Their website has been flaky. I hope it hasn't interfered with our live. Yeah. Chat is definitely broken. Oh no, it can't. No, it's now it tells me to hold on and it's trying to connect to the channels.
It could be like 50 questions in there.
Oh my goodness, yeah, and we missed everything. Yeah, I'm not able. Yeah, it's not letting me. I'm not able to post anything in the chat, so I have no idea. I've noticed earlier Restream was really slow on the load. So for those of you on LinkedIn, you can just search for Ron Craig, RONCRAIG, and I think your URL is actually linkedin.com/n/RONWCRAIG, correct?
Yes.
Yeah. And or search as hashtag, which is his first and last name. So hashtag RONCRAIG, and check him out. I know one thing of value, especially if you're on LinkedIn, you will want to see his post on how to enable. Does LinkedIn do multi-factor?
Yep, they have the old style of using your text messages, which we definitely advise against not using. But they also added Authenticator app, and I actually have a post out there for actually getting that set up.
So awesome. I wish I could put it in the chat. I'm really sorry for those of you that are watching that I can't, because then it would also just be a comment that would stay with the post. As I slice this up and put out the episodes, I'll make sure I put the links with it. So thanks again so much, Ron, for coming today. And now I will end the broadcast.
Okay, it was my pleasure. Thank you, Richard.